Rhea shifted into her new flat. It was old, a little musty, but it was hers. The walls were thick, painted a pale yellow that swallowed the sunlight. At night, the silence was broken by tiny creaks and groans. Rhea told herself it was an old building, settling into itself. But then she heard it. A whisper, faint and fleeting. Days turned into weeks. The whispers persisted, soft murmurs that seemed to snake out from the walls themselves. They were always there, at the edge of her hearing, weaving around her thoughts. Sometimes they sounded like her name, called out in a breathy, urgent tone. Sleep became a distant memory. Rhea found herself constantly listening, her senses on high alert. She tried to rationalize the whispers, blaming the old plumbing or the wind whistling through the gaps in the window frames. But deep down, a seed of unease had been planted. One night, the whispers escalated. They were louder now, more insistent, forming words she could almost decipher. Rhea sat up in bed, her heart pounding against her ribs. The room felt colder, the air thick with an unseen presence. Fear coiled in the pit of her stomach. She got out of bed, drawn towards the wall where the whispers seemed to originate. Placing her ear against the cold plaster, she listened, her breath catching in her throat. "Help me," the voice whispered, weak and desperate. Rhea's mind raced. This was no trick of the wind. Someone or something was trapped inside her walls, crying out for help. A wave of terror washed over her, yet a strange sense of responsibility took root. She had to find out what was hidden within her apartment. Rhea started small, researching the history of the building, talking to the older tenants. No one seemed to know anything about the whispers. Some dismissed her concerns, attributing them to the city's tendency to spook newcomers. Desperate, she approached her landlord, Mr. Gupta, a man who always seemed to lurk in the shadows. His eyes, dark and unreadable, held a flicker of something unsettling when she mentioned the whispers. He dismissed her claims, blaming faulty wiring and an overactive imagination. But Rhea noticed something else, a thin, almost invisible crack running along the wall of his own apartment, identical to the one in hers. The same crack she swore was getting wider, the whispers emanating from its depths growing stronger. Driven by a mixture of fear and morbid curiosity, Rhea decided to investigate the crack in her wall. Late one night, armed with a flashlight and a hammer, she approached the source of the whispers. The air felt heavy, charged with an unseen energy. As she neared the wall, the whispers intensified, swirling around her like a vortex. With a deep breath, she struck the wall. The plaster crumbled easily, revealing a dark, hollow space behind it. And then she saw it. A single glowing object resting in the darkness. It pulsed with an eerie light, the source of the whispers. As she reached out to touch it, a voice, cold and ancient, echoed in her mind. "You should not have seen that." The room went black. Rhea was left in darkness, the whispers replaced by a chilling silence. She had found the source, but what she had unleashed was far more terrifying than she could have imagined.